Showtime! The Capital G Show starts right now.
What's up YouTube, Capital G here. So guys, I was looking through Shadow Specters and there was one card where after I read its effect, like literally my jaw dropped and I thought, holy crap, this card looks like it's going to be absolutely amazing. I've got to make a freaking episode about this. The card is called Pot of Avarinevolence. Avarinevolence is not a real word. I googled that shit. So if I mispronounce that, I can give myself no higher than 25% of the blame pie, and Konami will obviously get the other 75%. It's a normal spell card that says you can only activate it at the beginning of your main phase 1, and you have to select 3 monsters in your graveyard with different types. Return the 3 selected monsters to your deck and shuffle it. Afterwards, draw 2 cards. During the turn you activated this card, you cannot conduct your battle phase. So the card is one of those multi-layer effects where obviously it has some conditions. The first thing I really noticed was draw 2 cards, and I was like, yes please, how can I get to that? And to me, this seems like a much more balanced version of Pot of Avarice, and I think that Konami did well to make a card like this, because I quite frankly think that Konami might be giving us a subtle hint that Pot of Avarice might get hit by the banhammer, and I say that because this card has more restrictions than a card like Avarice does, and I don't think that it's going to be abused as easily as Avarice. Now, they put 2 inherent balancers in the card, and I really like that, because it's not like Avarice where you just activate it and it's just like the absolute nuts. The first balancer is obviously that you cannot conduct your battle phase when you activate the card. So this means that, you know, your opponent does still get the +1 because, you know, they're activating 1 card, drawing 2. But at a minimal, I mean, you pretty much know that you don't have to play your best defense that turn, because, you know, they can't inflict any damage unless they're doing, obviously, direct damage or something like that. And then just a lot of your monsters are going to be safer, you know. Yes, we still have a lot of destruction effects in the game, but, I mean, running things over in battle is still something that just about every deck can do. So, you know, I feel safe knowing that my opponent has no battle phase. The second balancer is that you can only use this at the start of your main phase, much like the late great Cold Wave. This is huge because one of the biggest things that made Avarice such a ridiculous card is people could use all their resources and go for this really big push, and then when they walked into a Torrential Tribute or a Solemn Warning, it was just like, okay, well, you know, main phase 2, or, you know, I walked into a Mirror Force or something, main phase 2, I'm just going to put back all those cards that I just used, and I'm going to draw 2, and it's like, you know, I'm in a good position. Like, I'm probably just as set as I was before I tried that big push. The only difference is you lost obviously one of your power traps, but you know, there was really no consequence for this turn. Now, one thing I think about this card is I think that people are going to see the fact that you need 3 different monster types to activate this card, and they're probably going to blow that out of proportion. And I'm going to tell you why. I've got 3 reasons why that's not going to be that big of a deal. Number 1, there are a ton of competitive archetypes that are pretty much constructed of 3 or 4 types, you know, within that archetype. You know, look at Evil Swarm, that's constructed of Warrior, Rock, and Spellcaster. You look at Mermail, that's got Aqua, Fish, and Sea Serpent. You look at Windups, that has Beast Warrior, you've got Spellcaster, and, you know, I had to think about what the hell Windup Shark was, but he's a fish. So, I mean, you've got a lot of these competitive archetypes where they're just made up of these random types, and it's like, that's really not going to be that hard to get 3 different types in the graveyard. And then the second is that, you know, hand traps can artificially inflate the amount of types that you have in your graveyard. You know, people play Max C, people play Swift Scarecrow, people play Effect Veiler, and that's basically just going to boost the amount of types that you have in your graveyard relatively quickly, because, you know, Max C, Effect Veiler, a lot of people run 3 copies of those cards. And then the last should be obvious, Xing and Synchroing. I mean, that's just another way for, you know, a deck like Mermails to put, you know, a dragon in their graveyard, or, you know, Big Eye as a spellcaster in their graveyard. Stuff like that that you could never really achieve using your main deck. So, you know, Xing and Synchroing is very similar to hand traps, where it's going to put extra types in your graveyard, thus meeting the conditions of this card is going to be easy. Now, I honestly see a ton of potential in this card. I'm really not trying to oversell this, but when I look at the fact that you only need 3 monsters and everybody plays Maxi and Valor and hand traps probably aren't going anywhere, I look at decks like Evil Swarms or, you know, and I'm like, man, you guys can activate this card like turn 2 easily. So, you know, I think that this card could end up replacing Pot of Avarice, which would be a good thing in my personal opinion. But I'm going to say this, I think that this card might end up needing a restriction because 3 monsters, not that difficult to get through when you add hand traps and stuff like that. Let me know what you guys think. I think this card is awesome. Talk to you later. Subscribing makes life happy.